me how to do it. I don't tell a single soul. Pretty women, what's up? Is your hair right now? You a stand up or is you in your chair right now? Do you hear me? I can't let a wet nigga.
What's up, y'all? I'm Lee, and this is TV is My Bestie. This is my new podcast, obviously, where I'm going to be doing a very amateur review of Black TV to include both scripted and unscripted content. Doesn't have to be like an actual like black show, but there do need to be someone black as one of the main characters, because that's pretty much the only way you're going to get my attention. With that being said, I feel like I have a very in-depth analysis on how I'm going to rate these shows. So, 4 parts. First one being story. I feel like that's obvious, Second one is predictability. Now, for that, I feel like I'm one of those people who can always guess what's going to come next or what's happening. I've been like that since I was a kid. So, if it's super predictable, you're going to get a 1. If it's not, like I'm clutching my pearls jump scare, it's a 5 because you actually got one over on me. Good for you. So the next 2 seem similar but are really not. One is what I recommend it, meaning what I tell somebody like, hey, you should watch this. And the next one would be what I rewatch it. I am one of those people who will rewatch a show I really like. Like, I have no problem watching the same thing over and over again. So it's a compliment if I'm like, yeah, I'd actually rewatch it. Or I'm like, it was cool, but I wouldn't watch it again. Not to say I would never watch it again, but like by myself rewatch it. I would probably put it on to have someone else see it for the first time. But I mean, like, I'm just sitting at home eating my dinner and I'm like, let me put that back on. Let me run that back real quick. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the first series. This one is called Fatal Seduction, and this is a Netflix series. I don't know if it's a Netflix original. I think it's one of those ones that kind of like picked up. But I'm going to go ahead and give you the like general synopsis. It says, in this erotic thriller, a university professor in an unhappy marriage begins an illicit affair with a student amid a murder investigation. Now, that is the synopsis coming directly off of Netflix. So, this is a South African show. So I will say, when you're watching it, definitely pay attention because they slip in and out between English and their native languages. So if you're not paying attention, you may be like, wait, what? And have to run it back because it'll literally be mid-sentence and they'll just say something in their native tongue. But other than that, let's go ahead and get into... Actually, no. I don't know if I'm going to spoil it in this. I'm going to try not to, but I might. So do with that what you will. So the professor, the main character, her name is Nandi. She and her husband, she's a professor, obviously, and her husband, Leonard, is a judge, judge in South Africa. They have a 20-something-year-old daughter. I don't know how to pronounce her actual name, but a lot of times in the show they call her Z, so that's what I'll be calling her. And she also goes to the school that her mom teaches at, but I don't think, she's not in her class or anything. So in the beginning of the actual series, there's that foreshadowing kind of showing you what is going to end up happening. So someone's going to get popped. Someone is going to die, and we're just kind of waiting to see who it is. As the show kind of progresses, you meet Nandi's friend, Brenda. Brenda lives alone, and she's very much like a party girl, party vibes. And so she kind of convinces Nandi to go ahead and do her own thing, because Nandi ended up catching some text messages in her husband's phone that made her feel like he was doing a little some with his secretary assistant. So Brenda's like, you've been in this marriage for 20 years. He ain't really been treating you the way you should. So go ahead and do your little thing, Dizzle. So Nandi ends up meeting this guy, Jacob, on the beach. Jacob is clearly younger than them. they have to be in their 40s. Jacob is 24. So he's kind of flirting, but Nandy's not really into it because he's super young and she's still married and wasn't really trying to cheat like that. But she ends up running back into Jacob later and they end up doing the do. All right. Within that kind of series or that scene, when she's with Jacob, they're still at Brenda's house. Nandy was at Brenda's house for like a girls' weekend type time. So Nandy ends up going home, and that's pretty much it. Honestly, she's just trying to go about her day, and then she gets a notice that someone has passed. So that's pretty much it with when it comes to like the opening first episode type timing. It was a lot of kind of build up in the beginning, I will say. Everything kind of seems one way. Like it seemed a little bit like run of the mill at the beginning and predictable. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into my ratings. For the story overall, I feel like I would give it this is going to be out of 5. I feel like I would give it a 4. I think it was very interesting. The plot itself um is kind of standard, but just because of the way the show kind of unfolded, the story it definitely changed the story a bit and kind of changed the narrative. So for that, I'll give it a 4. Predictability, I think I'll also give it a 4. It had me at first. I'm gonna give it a. I'm gonna give it a 3.7. They definitely in the beginning I was kind of guessing and I'm like up, and like stuff was happening and I'm like like it was giving tea, but it wasn't giving like shock. I wasn't clutching my pearls at first. Toward the latter part of the season, it definitely kind of shocked me a bit, and so that's why I'm giving it that 0.7 because it definitely did pick up, and the ending did. The ending was like, oh, it wasn't like I was completely shocked, like it just blew my mind, but it was definitely a surprise twist, a little bit of a plot twist, and I liked that. I thought that that was pretty cool, so I'm gonna stay with a 3.7 on that one. Now, would I recommend it? Yes, I've already recommended it to like 3 people. I think it's a good show to watch. It's an easy show. The episodes are like 30 minutes and there's 14 episodes. So, not very long. Um the only thing like I said earlier was that you have to be paying attention, but I mean, you can pay attention for 30 minutes. Like you'll be okay. So, I definitely would recommend. I would give that I would say it's a 4 on the recommendation scale. I'm not like gonna press you about watching it, but I'm gonna bring it up. Like, oh, did you watch that? And then would I rewatch it? I would probably have to give it a 2 on the rewatchability for me. I don't see myself rewatching it by myself. I would rewatch it with someone if I'm like, oh, let's put this on and watch the show. I would kind of rewatch it so I could like, be looking over at them and get their reaction. But I probably wouldn't put it on again. So that is really the scale with that. Now that I gave a brief like little rundown, this is going to be like spoilers. So if you have already watched it or plan on watching it and you just want to like hear about it, this is the time. If you haven't seen it yet, stop right now, go watch it, come back to me later, and we'll have a little discussion. Let's go episode by episode. There's, like I said, 14. Some of them I don't think had a lot to talk about. I already kind of gave you backstory on the first episode. So the second one is when we find out that Brenda is died. Brenda is the person who died, and it's an apparent suicide. She was kind of found in the tub, had her wrists. So with that, there's the funeral, and Nandy is really trying to like wrap her head around the fact that she died. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but her husband has a brother who is in the show Vuyo. Vuyo, I don't know if it's revealed in that episode or not, but Vuyo and Brenda are seeing each other. So he's also very broken up about the fact that Brenda is gone. So both of them are really starting to put their head together. They're just like, I don't see her doing that. I don't think she would have done that. I think it's a murder and someone's trying to cover it up. And Vuyo is a now private detective, private investigator, but was a detective, like actually in the police force before he got shot. So he still got his little cop hat on and ready to pull it out to figure out what the heck happened to his girl. Because he just knows something happened to her, you know? So they're kind of getting in on that. And Nandy's husband, Leonard, is just like, why do we even have to talk about this? Like, she did that. I can't believe she did that. She's got all this money, all the education. That's kind of crazy. Which, of course, upset Nandy. So they had their little one, too. In the third episode, this is when, actually, no, let me backtrack a second. In the second episode, Nandy starts seeing Jacob again. They meet up and they do what they do a couple of more times, you know. So it's now a full blown affair. Okay. So in the third episode, this is when Z ends up getting a random text. I don't know if it's a text message or like a DM type situation. It kind of looked like it was on an app, some kind of message from some guy or someone, I should say, by the name of Pokeboy. And he's very interested in her and like pressing her a little bit, not in a bad way, but just applying pressure, I should say. And Z's eating it up. She's eating it up. Her friend Laura is like, that's really weird. Why is someone randomly messaging you and like knowing stuff about you? Like, that's odd. Why are y'all doing all that? But she also is the friend, Laura, is a member of LGBTQ whatever, and so we can kind of peep that she is feeling Z. So we're like, is it jealousy or do you think it's weird? You know? But either way, so she's really eating it up, messaging him and talking to this man. And meanwhile, Nandy is starting to really feel Jacob, and they tell each other that they love them, that they love each other. And Nandy starts to like think about actually leaving her husband for this little boy. Later on is their anniversary. So the fourth episode is their anniversary. And it's Leonard throws a surprise anniversary party for Nandy. She had no idea. Apparently, that is why the secretary was texting him all the time and stuff. And they were like looking at rooms and It was because they were trying to find a venue for the surprise party. While she's there, like at the party, kind of she's shocked and she's not sure what to do because she fully intended on like cutting him off. But now he's making this big speech and talking about how he wants to work on their marriage. So she's trying to decide what she wants to do at this point. And for some reason, this man, Jacob, pops up at the party. How does he know where it's at? We don't know yet. We don't know how he knows. But he's there, and Nandy sees him, and it's a problem. At that point, Vuyo, the brother, checks Nandy because he realizes that she's messing around. Because at Brenda's house, they found used condoms, so clearly there was multiple of them, and so they knew that and they knew it wasn't Brenda's. Like Brenda's DNA wasn't on it, so he put two and two together and realized it was her. So with that being said, he's just pressing her a little bit. He's like, "You're doing all this. My brother's never even cheated on you. I can't believe you would do this." But you know how that goes. Okay, Nandy in the fifth episode is real. See, I did it again. In the fifth episode, Nandy is trying to distance herself from Jacob a bit and kind of deciding that leaning towards focusing on rebuilding her marriage, and that is getting Jacob tight. He's not feeling it, not one bit. he's not feeling it, not one bit. So he starts trying to pop up places. He is actually Nandy's student, so they're in the same like he's in one of her classes, which she didn't know before they got together or whatever, but he clearly did. Um so he's just trying to pop up more, trying to see her, hanging after class type teams. And then Z decides, because her friend Laura is pushing her to figure out who this Pokeboy is. So they get one of their like techie classmates to essentially put like a trace on the phone so that she can pop up and meet old dude. Of course, at the moment that they're doing the trace, the phone is turned off. So red flag, right? All right, because he kind of at this point keeps going in and out. He'll be there, like they'll be talking a lot, and then he'll kind of disappear, and then he'll pop back up like nothing happened. So it was just giving, we need to track this man down. So as it kind of moves forward, Jacob starts getting a little bit more aggressive with his approach toward Nandy, popping up places. You ain't gonna go nowhere. You gonna see crazy type timing. You know how those types be. So that's really what it's giving. And Julio is realizing that Jacob is kind of crazy. He actually puts two and two together and figures out who Jacob actually is. So the reason that, or a big case that her husband Leonard tried back when he was a prosecutor, was a man who, I feel like I'm far enough in the video to where I can say it, was a man who raped and murdered a little girl, like a kindergarten girl. And Brenda was the girl's teacher. And Brenda is the one who like testified to witnessing it, and that's what got the man convicted. Julio realizes that Jacob is likely that man's son, and that man is now dead. He ended up actually shooting himself in the head in jail in front of Jacob and Jacob's mom. Like he grabbed the guard's gun and just like popped it. So super traumatizing, I'm sure, but makes sense why Jacob's a little odd. So as the kind of is starting to piece together what's happening, Avoyo is trying to like let Nandy know what's going on. She wasn't really trying to hear all that. She's like, no, that he could be anyone, like that his last name's kind of common. I don't think that's it. And so she decides, but she still ends up deciding that she's gonna go back to her husband anyway. And so, with that being said, Jacob, it sends him in a spiral. And so he decides that he's gonna exact revenge by obviously getting with her daughter. So he is pressing Z. What ends up happening is she does show up to where Jacob works to look for a Pokeboy, but it's an auto shop. So he kind of just plays it off like, oh, it literally could have been anybody. There's people in and out of here all the time. And you said that ping 2 hours ago, like I'd be having people in here. And so they do meet, have a little flirtation kind of thing, but that's it. Now, Jacob knew exactly who Z was, obviously, because he's catfishing her, and he had actually kind of stalked Nandy a little bit and her family, obviously. So he knew exactly who she was. She had no idea. But she, thought he was cute, so she gave him her number and was just like, oh, if you meet anybody or think of anybody who Pokeboy could be, let me know. And that's pretty much it with that. So now Jacob is deciding to kind of pursue her as himself to get back at Nandy. And so eventually Nandy realizes that Z is talking to him, and she tries to like tell her not to deal with him without saying why or what exactly went down. And she thought that Z was going to listen, and Z did not. She ended up going out with him one day, and they ended up spending the night together. So when Nandy realizes that she is with Jacob, she, lets Leonard know about the affair, who she's with, and basically like, oh, I think he kidnapped her to get back at me. And because he's a judge, cops dropped everything to go try to find her and figure out what's going on. You know what I'm saying? With that being said, I think I'm gonna stop doing like the episode recaps. I'm gonna leave y'all right there. That way, even if you wanted to keep listening, you don't know everything that happened, so you can go ahead and watch the rest of it and figure out who did what and who dies at the end. Because tea, it's some tea, child. I'm gonna go ahead and just like say it was definitely a fun watch. Like it was something I was like, oh, the whole time. Like I was on the phone with people while I was watching it, and I'm just like spilling tea. I'm like, this is really a a, a drama. It's very much a drama. So it's very much like, secret love affairs and babies and this and that. It's just like every second you're like, dang, this happened. Dang. And so when it ended, like no one ends, none of these, I'm trying to decide how I want to say this. Nothing ends the way you expected it to. Based off of the like maybe the charges they had or the like people they had supporting them. It just was a surprise ending for pretty much everybody. Except I guess except Z. Nothing really happened with her. But that's a lie. That's a lie. She does have like a little moment, but as far as like the actual conclusion goes for her, that was pretty much normal. But she did definitely had her moment to kind of make a stamp in the show. I really don't think it would have. I really think it would have still been just as good without some of the side characters. I don't feel like they were necessary. There's definitely a few that I'm like, okay, like a couple people died. And I'm just like, oh, okay, like, can we get to something more interesting? Can we get to something more like just something people actually care about? They weren't really necessary to the plot, and therefore their death also wasn't. Even when Brenda died, she was only in the first episode. They talked about her the rest of the show, but she really wasn't in it very much. So you don't have a chance to really like her. They do like some backdating or like flashes back to the past. So she is in a couple of those scenes, but even then, it's not very in depth. So you don't. I feel like I didn't really build a connection with her the way you had, or empathy for her the way you would with some of the other characters. Even with Z. Z is 20. I don't know what it is, but she wasn't giving 20 to me. At least not the way I and my friends acted when we were 20. She really was giving 16. I didn't think she was an adult until like they said it. Until she said, "I'm 20." But I mean, not to say 20 is like grown, you know what I'm saying? But it just was giving teenager and like like she just seemed a little young. She just seemed real young, real immature. But I guess maybe she also lived kind of a sheltered life. And so she was able to just kind of be in that little fantasy world, that fantasy life that she likes, and not really have to worry about too much. So maybe that is a contributing factor to that. So it was kind of hard for me to really even click with her until the end, really, the last few episodes. Up until that point, it was. I thought she was a teenager and I just wasn't connecting with it the same way. I will say Jacob, his ending was interesting in that nothing really happened to him. I don't even remember. I honestly don't think anything happened to him. He really just like left town and that was it. So overall, I'm pretty sure I said this already. I don't know. But overall, I'm gonna give the show a 7 out of 10, which is good. It's definitely a good watch for that first time around. Like I said, I appreciate the fact that they weren't American. So I got to see, some other culture, South African culture. Not for real, because it's very much like a normal life. But at least with the language and stuff, that was cool. But that is going to be it for this episode. I know this one was a little bit awkward. I think I'll be more prepared next time. We'll see. I'm also a procrastinator. Either way, thank y'all for listening. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're watching the video version. Shout out to y'all on YouTube. I will try to insert like the poster and stuff. We'll see how I'm feeling. I gotta edit some of these out. So we'll see what it gives. But I will definitely be back next week with a new show. Keep watching.
Ask me how to do it, I don't tell a single soul. Pretty women, what's up? Is your hair right now? You a stand up or is you in your chair right now? Do you hear me? I can't let a whack nigga